Before we start, just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Only 2% are subscribed at 1,000 subscribers. I'll be posting a special video. We should just be friends. That is how my wife broke our marriage one Tuesday night. I am Ethan, 34, and I remember my fork stopping halfway. My hand shook above the plate like someone had hit pause. I searched her face for a punchline and found nothing. That tiny silence after her words felt louder than any fight. I know how dramatic that sounds now, typing this out. Back then it just felt stupid and surreal like a bad sitcom. Married people do not sit down for dinner and rebrand as buddies. I waited for her to take it back with a nervous laugh. She only pushed her food around and avoided my eyes. What does that even mean to you? My voice came out flat and tight. I heard myself and hated how careful I sounded. I wanted to slam a fist down, demand a real answer. Instead, I kept my tone soft, like I might scare her away. That should have told me everything about our dynamic. She breathed out slow and folded her hands together. I want us to have a platonic companionship. She used that exact phrase like a therapist had written it. No romance or sex or pressure, just support and closeness. She finally looked up and there was relief, not fear, in her eyes. I stared at her and tried to translate her words into something less brutal. My brain spun through 100 excuses for her. Maybe she was stressed, maybe this was about work and she just needed time. I grabbed my water and drank too fast, anything to stall for another second. So we stay married but act like friends. I said it slow and tested the shape of it. The sentence tasted wrong in my mouth. She nodded once and her shoulders dropped like a weight left her. For me, it landed in the exact same moment. I still love you, she said, and her fingers toyed with her ring. You are my favorite person and you are my home base. She shrugged one side, small, almost apologetic. I am just not feeling that romantic pull anymore and I do not want to fake it. I wish I could say I walked away right there. I wish I tell you I respected myself in that moment. The truth is I panicked and tried to negotiate my own downgrade. Maybe this is a phase, I heard myself say in a calm voice. Maybe we can work on it and not label it yet. Her mouth twisted like she had expected that line. I have been thinking about this for a long time. She tapped the table with one finger, slow and steady. Calling it what it is helps me breathe. She paused there and gave me a second to catch up. I felt like someone 10 steps behind and running blind. So what exactly changes for us tonight? My voice shook on that last word. I already knew something would shift, I just wanted to hear her admit it. She watched me for a long beat and chewed her lip. We stopped trying to be romantic partners, she answered finally. We stopped pretending this is working. The word pretending sliced straight through my chest. I replayed our recent weeks in fast cuts and searched for obvious signs. Had she flinched away or stopped reaching first, or had I missed everything? My memories rearranged themselves while I sat there. Suddenly normal moments looked staged and hollow. Are you asking for a separation? I braced for the impact of that word. No, she answered quickly and reached across the table. Her fingers rested on my wrist and felt almost weightless. I want you in my life and I need you and I just need a different kind of connection. That should have sounded like a compliment, but it did not land that way. It sounded like I had been moved into a safer category. Husband was risky, friend was reliable. I tried to joke because that is my default defense, so I am getting friend-zoned by my own wife. My laugh sounded strange, even to me. She winced and pulled her hand back. That is not what I mean, she whispered. You are twisting it into something cruel. Her eyes shone with frustration and guilt mixed together. I am trying to be honest and not cheat or lie. The word cheat hung between us, heavy and almost visible. No one mentioned cheating, I answered, and my chair scraped back. I did not stand up, I just needed space from that word. It hovered in my mind like a warning icon. If this was the honest version, what had the edited version looked like? I suddenly wanted to rewind months and watch everything in slow motion. She rubbed her forehead and kept her gaze on the table. I am telling you now because I respect you. Her voice shook for the first time that night. I do not want to blindside you later with something worse. That phrase later with something worse lodged in my spine like ice. I heard future disaster baked into it. I get now that this was the opening move, not the whole game. Sitting there though, I clung to any thread that hinted she still cared. So what does this look like in practice? I asked. That word practice made it sound like a work project. Maybe I did that on purpose so I would not cry at the table. She looked up and seemed steadier now that the phrase was out. W. E. Stop kissing, she started, and watched my reaction closely. We stop any sexual stuff for now and see how we feel. For now sounded like a bandage she slapped on the wound. We share life and bills and chores and support, but no intimacy pressure. I swallowed a bitter taste and forced another question. Separate rooms for us starting tonight. Her eyes flickered almost like I had jumped ahead too fast. Maybe that would help, she admitted and twisted her ring again. Give us space to reset, take the expectation away. She said expectation like it was a dirty word. If you are wondering why I did not just say no, then trust me, I ask myself the same thing. In that moment, I felt like a kid called into the principal office. My brain sprinted through worst-case scenarios, divorce and selling the house and telling our families and starting over alone. Agreeing felt like the only way to keep everything from collapsing. Okay, I said finally, and my voice sounded thin. We can try that if it helps you. The second I framed it that way, I trapped myself. I made her comfort the goal and my pain the acceptable cost. She exhaled like she had been underwater and I was the surface. There was no argument or dramatic exit, just steady movements. She got up first and started clearing the table. I watched her stack plates while my heart pounded against my ribs. We moved around each other in that tight space and stayed careful not to brush arms. Every avoided touch felt louder than a slap. Later, I stood in the doorway of our bedroom and stared at the bed. My side looked exactly the same as that morning. That almost made it worse, like the scene had not gotten the memo. She walked past me carrying a folded blanket. I made up the guest room for you, she said in an almost casual tone. For me specifically right now then. The words stumbled out before I could soften them. I expected a conversation about logistics, not a prepared layout. She nodded once and did not quite meet my eyes. Just for a while, she added quickly, so this does not feel confusing at night. I followed her down the hall in a kind of numb drift. The guest mattress looked smaller than I remembered. She set the blanket down and smoothed a corner. If this feels like too much, we can adjust, she offered. It sounded generous on the surface. Underneath it was a closed door. I stood there with my hands in my pockets and tried to find solid ground. Some part of me already knew this was not a temporary experiment. The language was too clean and too polished, like something rehearsed. Still, I heard my own voice say, "It is fine if this is what you need." She stepped closer like she might hug me, then stopped. That half step hurt more than any full rejection. "Thank you for understanding," she murmured and backed toward the hall. For the first time all night, she looked scared, not relieved. Then she turned away and left me in that borrowed room. I lay on the mattress staring up at the ceiling, counting slow breaths. The house sounded different from that spot and felt distant, like I was visiting. Every creak and pipe groan kept me awake. At one point, I heard her move around in our bedroom. My hands twitched with the urge to go back and pretend nothing had changed. I did not get up, though. I stayed on my back and replayed every line of that conversation. My brain tried to reframe it as a break or reset, anything softer. The phrase platonic companionship looped in my skull until it lost meaning. The marriage part did not feel platonic. It felt like it had been quietly retired. Now I write this and I can see how clear it was already. She had drawn a border and asked me to live on the safer side. Back then, I still believed I could climb back over it with enough patience. I thought I was protecting our future by accepting less for the present. I did not realize I had just agreed to be demoted from husband to optional friend. My phone lit up during lunch with a wall of text from her. Not a quick check-in, not a meme, just a long gray block that made my chest tighten before I even opened it. You ever stare at a message and know your day just changed? That was me, thumb frozen above the screen. I already knew it was about our new arrangement, I just did not expect it to look like a contract. I wrote down some boundaries so we do not get confused, the first line said. My sandwich suddenly looked like a prop. I scrolled and the list kept going. No more kissing, no touching that could be interpreted as sexual. Hugs allowed, but only when both felt emotionally safe. We would keep sharing bills and chores and life logistics, but remove romantic expectations. By the time I reached the bottom, my appetite was gone. She ended with, "This will protect both of us from misunderstandings." That phrase hit harder than anything else in the message. I read it 3 times, then a fourth, like I might find a hidden, softer version. I typed, "We should talk about this in person," and erased it. I started, "This feels harsh," and erased that too. In the end, I sent a weak, "Can we go over this tonight?" I hated how cautious I sounded, even in text. She replied almost instantly with a thumbs up and a heart. That mix of casual emoji and heavy rules made my stomach twist. It felt like she had been waiting to hit send, like this had been saved in her notes for days. When I got home that evening, the printed version sat on the table. That detail told me everything about how serious she was. She did not just toss thoughts into a message, she had formatted our marriage. She sat across from me with a pen in her hand. I figured it is easier to walk through point by point. She pushed the pages toward me and folded her arms. I remember noticing how relaxed she looked. Calm voice, steady hands, eyes clear. I was the only one who trembled, and that difference scared me more than the words. "Can you read aloud?" she asked, "so we both know we remember it the same way." That line sounded almost like mediation, I guess in a way that is exactly what it was. I cleared my throat and started at the top. Physical affection will be limited to friendly gestures like quick hugs. My voice dragged a bit over friendly. She watched my face with each sentence, checking for pushback. The pen tapped a slow beat on the table, steady and controlled. This is a lot, I managed and set the paper down for a moment. It reads like we are breaking up inside the same house. I tried to smile to soften it, but my lips would not cooperate. It is not a breakup, she answered and leaned forward. It is redefining. We are choosing a connection that actually matches what we are now. Her tone stayed level, almost rehearsed. I did not miss that word choosing. It implied I had a real say in this. I also did not fully believe it, which made me feel petty and paranoid at once. Why does it need to be this strict? I asked. We could just talk if something feels off. I knew I sounded clingy and naive, and I hated that awareness even as I spoke. Her jaw tightened for a second, then loosened. Because talking has not been enough, she answered. We drift into old patterns and then we both end up hurt. Old patterns, that was her way of saying intimacy, romance, any sign we were more than roommates with paperwork. She pointed at one line halfway down. This one matters a lot to me, she said. No sexual contact at all for now, until or unless we both explicitly agree otherwise. The way she stressed both and explicitly made it clear she did not expect that day to come. It felt less like a pause and more like a locked door. Okay, I said, because fighting in that moment felt like begging. If that is what you need to feel safe, we can respect that. My tongue moved faster than my pride. I know how that sounds. I can almost hear people yelling at me through the screen. Trust me, I yell at my past self too. She nodded once and let out a breath. This is healthier, she said, for us, for our future dynamic. That word healthier bothered me more than it should have. Healthier than what? Than being partners, than touching, than wanting each other. My brain flipped through those questions and refused to land on one. Here is another important part, she continued, tapping the paper. We agree not to monitor each other's phones or messages. No checking, no snooping, no interrogations. That line stuck out like a neon sign, and not in a good way. Before this shift, checking each other's phones had never even been a thing. Suddenly it needed a rule. Is that something you are worried about happening? I asked. My voice came out softer than I planned. She shrugged and looked away. I just want us to have privacy. We are friends now. Friends do not police each other like jealous partners. Her fingers tightened around the pen until her knuckles paled. Friends do not sleep in different rooms either. My brain shot back, but I swallowed that. Out loud I only said, I am not planning to stalk your phone, which felt like a lame defense even as I said it. She relaxed a bit, like she had been braced for a fight and did not get one. This will help me not feel trapped, she added. That trapped feeling is what kills everything. So now I was potentially the jail. That was a new role I never signed up for. We moved through the rest of the document like we were negotiating a lease. Weekly check-in talks, shared calendars for house stuff, each of us free to make separate plans without checking for romantic obligations. At the bottom, she had left a blank line. If there is anything you want to add, we can put it there, she offered. Something that protects you too. The pen slid across the table toward me. My mind scrambled for something that did not sound desperate. No dating other people was the obvious ask, but if I said it out loud, I would have to admit I thought that was on the table. Can we at least agree we are not seeing anyone else? I asked. Finally, if we are still married and trying to fix things, that feels basic. Her gaze flicked down, then up. There was a tiny pause there, a glitch in the smooth script. Of course, she answered. This is not about other people, it is about us functioning. The breath I let out sounded too loud in that small space. I did not catch the way her fingers twisted the pen at that moment. I only noticed that detail later, replaying every second like a security tape. I wrote one line in the blank space. No dating or romantic connections outside this household while we are still legally together. It looked stiff and cold on the page, but it was all I could think to guard. She read it, then signed her name beneath it. I watched her pen move and felt a weird mix of relief and dread. She had agreed, yet somehow I still felt like the one losing ground. The next days, the new rules settled over the house like invisible tape lines. We moved around each other carefully, always aware of where not to step. No casual kisses, no lingering touches in the hallway. We still talked about bills and errands and schedules. On the surface, it could almost pass for normal. Underneath, it felt like we had closed a door and pretended it was just a little draft. The first time I noticed the phone thing was a Thursday night. She sat curled at one end of the couch, screen angled slightly away from me. The soft little notification sound kept chiming every few seconds. She smiled at whatever she was reading, not a polite smile, the kind that creases your eyes and pulls your shoulders up, the kind I had not seen directed at me in a while. Good news, I asked. I tried to make it playful, not needy. Work stuff. She locked the screen with a quick thumb flick, just a group chat, nothing dramatic. I caught a glimpse of a name before the screen went dark. 3 letters, masculine, I will call him Jay here. It flashed, then vanished. My brain flagged it, then immediately shushed itself. People have coworkers, people laugh at memes, not every message means betrayal. Did something fun happen there? I tried again. If you know that awkward tone when you're fishing without wanting to show it, that was me. My voice gave me away. She stretched her legs out and yawned. It is just venting, she answered. You do not want to hear about office drama all night. The phone slid into her pocket like it lived there. In that moment, I told myself she was right. I did not want to be the clingy spouse demanding to audit every chat. Those are the partners everyone warns you about in jokes. But then the pattern repeated. Evenings where she leaned closer to her screen than to me, quick taps to lock it whenever I walked into the room, small laughs shared with whoever was on the other side of those bubbles. You seem happier lately, I mentioned once while we stood in the kitchen. It was not a fully neutral observation. I was proud and also hurt. She lifted one shoulder. I guess I feel lighter, she said. I do not have to pretend to be someone I am not with you now. She reached for a glass, movement smooth and casual. That sentence caught me right under the ribs. I had never thought of us as pretend. Apparently there had been a version of her I never met. So who gets the version that feels most like you these days? I asked. I tried to keep my tone light like a teasing jab, but my words carried more weight than I meant. Her eyes narrowed just a fraction. I am not hiding some secret persona, she answered. I talk to friends from work, that is all. They actually know how burnt out I am. Friends from work, plural, vague enough to be harmless, specific enough to form a wall. I nodded and dropped it because the rule sheet flashed in my mind. No interrogations, no phone checks, no jealous behavior. Looking back, that piece mattered more than I wanted to admit. I did not want to be the controlling husband. I did not want to become the villain in my own story. So I swallowed my questions and told myself this was growth. Adults trust. Adults do not snoop. Adults respect privacy. One night, close to midnight, I woke in the spare bed to the faint hum of a voice. Not full words, just the rise and fall of her talking quietly. The wall between our rooms carried sound in strange patches. Sometimes I caught a laugh, sometimes a murmur. That night it was a low, warm rhythm that clearly was not for me. I checked the time, way too late for casual work banter. My hand hovered over my door handle for a moment. I imagined walking down the hall, knocking, asking who she was talking to. Then the list of rules marched through my head again. Do not bombard, do not pry, do not demand explanations like a suspicious cop. I retreated and sat on the edge of the bed instead. My heart thumped against my ribs like I had just run stairs. I listened to her soft laugh filter through the wall. A voice in my head whispered that friends chat late too. Another voice reminded me she had just and me from her body while her phone got all the late night attention. You know that mental tug of war where every thought drags the opposite direction? That was my entire brain, every angle hurt. The next morning her mood glowed. There is no other way to describe it. She moved around the kitchen humming under her breath, light on her feet. Sleep well? I asked, pouring coffee I did not really want. My voice sounded casual enough that I almost believed it. Better than I have in a long time, she answered. She texted with one hand while pouring cereal with the other. The phone barely left her fingers. I watched the way her lips quirked when the screen lit up. That private, delighted curve I used to chase with stupid jokes. Now some digital someone else got it. Who keeps you so entertained so early? I joked. The word joked carried more tension than humor. She locked the screen with a quick click. A friend, she answered. He is just helping me process everything. The pronoun landed like a dropped weight. He, not they, not everyone, he. I must have flinched because she rolled her eyes. Do not start, she warned. He knows I am married, he knows the situation, he is just a safe space. Safe for who? That question burned behind my teeth, but I forced it down. Instead, I took a slow sip and pretended to think it through. So you have a male coworker you talk to about our new setup, I said, as evenly as I could manage. That is a pretty big role for a stranger. He is not a stranger, she replied, shoulders tensing. We have worked together for a while, he has seen what this has done to me. Her fingers tightened around her cup. That stung, seen what this has done to her like I was an illness she needed help describing. I noticed how she framed it, her pain, his support, my absence. I thought we were supposed to process this together, I murmured. Isn't that the point of still sharing a life? I stared at the table so I would not have to watch her reaction. She clinked her spoon down a little too hard. You are too close to it, she answered. Every time I try to talk about us, you hear it as criticism. I wanted to argue, I wanted to list the times I had tried to listen. Instead, I only managed, so he gets the unfiltered version of you that I apparently cannot handle. Her jaw clenched. This is exactly what I meant about jealousy, she said. You are making something ugly out of me having support. I shut my mouth then because I could feel the edge in my own tone sharpening. The rules had not mentioned what to do when the word support started sounding like code. Over the next week, the pattern deepened. More late messages, more half-hidden smiles, more just a friend from work whenever I raised an eyebrow. I caught the name on her screen again once when she left it face up. Same 3 letters, same thread from the other night. The urge to grab her phone and scroll almost took over my hands. It would have been so easy. A few swipes and I could confirm every fear or destroy it. Instead, I backed away like it was a hot stove. The rules flashed in my mind again, but so did something else. The idea that if I had to sneak, we were already poisoned. I told myself I was taking the high road. Maybe I was just afraid of hard proof. One evening, I got home later than usual. Her car was already in the driveway. Through the front window, I saw her on the couch with her feet tucked under her, phone pressed to her ear. She laughed at something I could not hear. It changed her whole posture, brought out a softness I had not seen directed at me in weeks. Her free hand played with the edge of a cushion. I stood on the porch longer than I should have, watching my own house from the outside, listening to muffled laughter, wondering when I had been moved from main cast to background. When I finally stepped inside, she glanced up and covered the mic. I will call you back, she said into the phone. Her voice shifted to a lower, more neutral tone. Just got home, she told whoever was on the line. Yeah, I know, I will text you. She hung up and left the device on the coffee table, screen down. Something in me took a picture of that moment, the quick cutoff, the careful wording, the way her whole energy dimmed as soon as she turned toward me. Who was that? I asked. My voice sounded calmer than the heat in my chest. Work friend, she answered too fast. We were just going over some project stuff. She started gathering wrappers that did not need gathering. At 9 at night, I said, on the phone with that face. I mimicked her earlier smile without meaning to. It came out harsher than I planned. She straightened, eyes flashing. Can you not make this into something it is not? She snapped. I told you this is not about replacement. He just understands me right now. That sentence hit harder than any insult. He understands me right now. The unspoken part hung in the air. You do not. I opened my mouth to respond, and closed it again. Words lined up in my head, sharp and ready, but something stopped me. If I accused her, she would point at the list and call me controlling. If I stayed quiet, I would sit back down in my assigned role. Either way, I lost something. I am trying to figure out where I fit in this new setup, I said finally. Am I still the person you turn to when you are hurting? My throat tightened halfway through. She stared at me, expression torn between soft and annoyed. You are the person I live with, share a history with, depend on for stability, she said slowly. That does not vanish because I have other people to lean on emotionally. She rubbed her temple like the conversation gave her a headache. I heard the quiet part again, stability, not passion, safe, not chosen. I wish I could tell you I stood up straight in that moment and refused to accept it. Instead, I nodded like I understood and went to the spare bed later with a knot in my stomach. That night, long after lights out, the glow from down the hall snuck under my door. The faint, familiar notification sounds pulsed through the dark. I lay there staring at the ceiling, counting each tiny chime. 1, 2, 3, her muted giggle drifted through a crack in the quiet. Every ping felt like a little reminder. She had drawn up our new boundaries on paper. Somewhere on a screen, someone else was learning the unedited version of her heart. I told myself I could live with it for now since I had agreed to the rules. What I did not realize yet was that those rules gave her cover. They did not protect me at all. I only picked up her tablet to move it off the couch when the notification flashed. His name popped up with a little heart and the preview line stopped my hand. Still thinking about last night, wish I could see you. My thumb hovered over the screen like it belonged to someone else. I know I could have put it down. I know I had promised not to snoop. I opened it anyway. You ever cross a line in slow motion and still feel like you were pushed? That was me staring at that chat window. The whole thread sat right there, no password, no barrier, just a long scroll of messages with this guy. I told myself I would read just one, just enough to calm my nerves. That lie lasted 10 seconds. He asked about her day, not in a polite way, in a way that showed he already knew the cast of characters, the dramas, the exact things that wore her down. She told him she felt more seen with him than at home. My stomach dropped at that line. I read it twice to make sure I had not imagined it. Nope, there it was, clear and simple in her words in our living room. He called our house her situation, she called me her constant. They joked about how she was basically a married single woman. Each message added another weight to my chest. I wish we could just curl up and talk until we fall asleep, he wrote. I think about that every night. I do too, she answered. You are the one place I feel that spark anymore. Seeing it written like that hit harder than hearing anything out loud. She had never once used that word about me in those texts, not even close. My palms felt damp, my heart pounded in my ears. I scrolled further even though every line made me feel worse. She vented about our new living setup, about me in the spare room, about how she cared deeply but felt no pull toward me. He reassured her that she was brave for honoring her feelings. Brave, that word almost made me laugh out loud. She breaks our marriage into pieces and he hands her a medal for honesty. Then I hit the part that made my vision blur for a second. You know, if you were free, I would take you out properly, he wrote. Real date, real romance, no confusion. I know, she replied. If things were different, I would want that too. I stopped breathing for a moment. That was no harmless venting. That was a fantasy they both accepted as real in some alternate timeline, an almost confession hiding behind if. The front door clicked while the tablet still rested in my hands. Her keys landed in the bowl, her footsteps headed straight toward the living room. I locked the screen so fast my thumb fumbled. The tablet slipped and landed beside me, too late to pretend I had never touched it. Her eyes dropped to the device, then to my face, then back. Were you going through my stuff? She asked. Her voice came out low and sharp. I saw a notification, I answered. My throat felt tight. Your screen was open, I read some of it. No point lying, the guilt was written all over me. She crossed her arms. We agreed we would not look at each other's messages. Her jaw clenched hard. Do you remember that, or does that only apply to me? Hearing her talk about agreements almost made me lose it. We also agreed there were no other romantic connections, I said. Did you forget that part? Her gaze hardened. There are not, she snapped. I am talking to a friend who cares, that is not a Roma. Entic relationship, you are twisting it. I laughed once, short and ugly. He literally wrote he wishes you could fall asleep together, I said. You told him he is where you feel that spark. She flinched at the word, just a fraction. You are ripping those lines out of context, she answered. You do not know the full conversation. My hands opened and closed on my knees. I read a lot of conversation, I said. Enough to know he gets all your emotional energy while I sleep down the hall. Her foot tapped fast against the floor. He listens, she said. He does not make me feel guilty for how I feel. He understands that this marriage is complicated. So we are discussing our marriage with some guy who wants to date you, I said, and that is not a problem to you. He respects our situation, she insisted. He knows where the line is. She held onto that word line like it was a shield. That line is not where you think it is, I answered. Whether you touch or not, this is full-on emotional cheating. She sucked in a breath and shook her head. That word is way too strong for what this is, she said. You are making drama where there does not need to be drama. On one level, I knew I had broken a promise by reading. On another level, I felt like the only reason I knew the truth was because I had. You called me your constant in that chat, I said. You talk about me like furniture with a heartbeat. Her eyes flashed and then softened just a little. You are my stability, she said. That is not an insult, that is important to me. Then why does he get your fire, I asked. The question slipped out before I could filter it. Once it was out, I could not take it back. She looked away at the wall. Because it is easier to feel that with someone who is not inside the mess, she said quietly. He gets the version of me that is not weighed down by our history. That one hurt more than anything else. It landed like proof that I could never win this game. He benefited from distance while I carried every old argument. I cannot keep pretending that is nothing, I said. Either we face what this really is or we stop pretending we are working on us. She rubbed her forehead. What do you want me to do? She asked. Cut off the only person who makes me feel understood lately. Maybe talk to a professional instead of a coworker who clearly wants more, I answered. Maybe invest that energy in counseling with your actual husband. She hesitated then, just long enough for me to see the crack. You want therapy, she asked, like couples counseling. Yeah, I said, because whatever this is, I cannot untangle it alone, and I am done being told I am overreacting. She let out a slow breath. Fine, she said, we can try it. Maybe hearing this from someone neutral will help you see I am not doing anything wrong. That last line told me everything about where her head was. She genuinely believed some third party would back her up. At that point, I half hoped they would. I could not trust my own judgment anymore. Fast forward a week, and we sat in a small office on stiff chairs. The counselor glanced between us after we finished our clumsy introductions. What brings you two in today? She asked. The question hung there for a beat. We are redefining our relationship as non-romantic, my wife started. Her tone held that same practiced calm. We still share a home, just not intimacy. The counselor's eyebrows lifted a millimeter. And how is that working so far? She asked. For me, it feels honest, my wife answered. I was exhausted from pretending, now at least we are aligned. The counselor turned to me, and for you, she asked. It feels like I got dropped to roommate status without a vote, I said. She calls it clarity, I call it being downgraded. I heard the bitterness in my own voice and winced. Still, I did not retract it. If there was anywhere to stop sugarcoating, it was here. The counselor nodded slowly. That is a big shift for both of you, she said. Have there been any outside relationships involved in this change? My wife stiffened next to me. No affairs, she answered quickly. I am talking to a colleague who has been supportive, but there is no physical aspect. I watched the counselor's face as those words landed. Ilse saw the tiny flicker in her eyes. So there is an emotional connection with someone else, the counselor clarified. How would you describe that bond? He is my friend, my wife said. He listens, he knows the situation, that is all. She crossed her legs, chin raised a little. The counselor glanced at me. How does it feel hearing that? She asked. Like my wife handed him the space that used to belong to us, I answered. She talks to him late at night about our marriage. They imagine being together in a different life. I sleep in the guest room. You could have cut the tension in that room with a spoon. My wife shifted and glared at me, but she did not call me a liar. Do you two talk about romantic feelings for each other? The counselor asked my wife. You and this coworker. There is an attraction, my wife admitted after a few seconds. We have acknowledged that, but we agreed not to act on it, so it does not really count. The counselor leaned forward. It absolutely counts, she said. Whether or not you cross a physical line, this is an emotional affair. My wife flinched like she had been slapped. I felt a weird jolt of vindication and shame at the same time. It was validating and still awful to hear. That is a harsh label, my wife pushed back. No one is sneaking around in hotel rooms. I am not lying about where I go, we talk. You are sharing your deepest feelings and romantic energy with someone who is not your spouse, the counselor answered. That is the definition of emotional infidelity. The room went quiet. I watched my wife's throat move as she swallowed. She stared at the carpet like it might offer backup. So what, I am just never allowed to connect with anyone else again? She asked. Her voice had a defensive edge now. You are allowed friends, the counselor said, but you cannot move the intimate core of your marriage to another man and pretend your partner should be fine with it. That sentence sat heavy between us. I could feel my own breath shaking a little. I stared at the counselor because if I looked at my wife, I might start begging her to choose. Do you want this marriage to remain closed? The counselor asked, looking at both of us. Or are you opening it emotionally or physically? I am not interested in an open marriage, I blurted. The words jumped out faster than I could think. My hands gripped the armrests. The counselor turned to my wife. And you, she asked, what do you want? My wife hesitated longer than anyone should in that moment. She stared at the wall, then at her hands, then finally at the counselor. I do not have a clear answer, she said. I know I cannot go back to how things were. I know this connection with my coworker is important to me. I do not want to lose my husband either. She did not say no, she did not say yes. She left the door cracked wide open and called it confusion. So right now you are emotionally involved elsewhere while legally married and living together, the counselor summarized. You also sleep separately and have removed physical affection. That combination looks a lot like a one-sided open arrangement. One-sided, that phrase hit me like cold water. I had been too busy drowning in my own hurt to name it that clearly. I am not seeing anyone, I said. I am not looking, I am still here trying to fix this. My wife glanced at me then, there was something like guilt in her eyes mixed with frustration. You were not happy either, she said quietly. You just never said anything. Because I thought rough patches were normal, I answered. I did not jump into late-night love chats with someone new. The counselor lifted a hand. I hear a lot of pain and blame on both sides, she said. Right now I want to ask one simple question. Are you two both willing to step back from outside romantic energy while we work on this? My response was instant. Yes, I said. If we are in therapy, I think we owe it to each other to actually show up. My wife did not answer right away. She chewed her lip, eyes flicking toward the window. I can limit contact, she said finally. I do not know if I can cut him off completely. That feels cruel. Cruel to him, not to me. That priority list told me more than any speech. The session ended with homework and follow-up dates. On paper it looked like progress. In my chest it felt like a verdict I did not want to read yet. Out in the parking lot we walked in silence for a few steps. Cars pulled in and out around us. My heart hammered hard enough that I could feel it in my fingertips. That was intense, she said, unlocking the car. She really went hard on the affair label. She shook her head like she was shaking off bad weather. She called it what it is, I answered. That is the first time someone neutral has said I am not crazy. I never called you crazy, she fired back. I just think you are seeing things in black and white. Life is not that simple. You told another man you wished you could be with him, I said. If that is not romantic, what is it? She gripped the steering wheel, staring straight ahead. I have feelings I do not fully understand, she said. I am trying to handle them without blowing up everything. You already blew it up, I said quietly. You just did it slowly instead of with one big explosion. She exhaled hard. I agreed to therapy, she said. I showed up, I am trying. I cannot just flip a switch and stop caring about him. I looked out the window at the moving traffic and wondered when exactly I had become the side character in my own life. When did the main tension shift from our marriage to this triangle where I was the one left holding the rye? NG. Back then, I told myself this was a turning point, that now that a professional had called it out, she would pull back, we would reconnect. The fantasy of recovery kept me seated in that car. What actually happened was quieter and worse. On the surface, she toned things down, fewer obvious calls when I was around, more careful with her notifications, less open laughter in front of me. Underneath, nothing meaningful changed. She just got better at hiding the parts she knew the counselor would question. And I stayed because I had finally heard someone else name the betrayal, and still I hoped that name might scare her enough to choose me again. It was wild when she almost left you for that guy. My friend dropped that line like he was talking about a movie. We were standing in his backyard with plastic cups, and my grip tightened so hard the cup crumpled. I turned toward him slowly. What guy? My voice came out low, steady. Inside, I already knew where this was going. He frowned, confused by my tone. The dude from her office, he said. The one she was hanging around last year. I thought you two were on a break then. My skin went hot and cold in waves. We were never on a break, I answered. What are you talking about exactly? He shifted his weight, suddenly less relaxed. She did not tell you, he asked. His eyes darted away for a second. That tiny flinch gave me my answer. Tell me now, I said. I was not yelling. That almost made it worse. He sighed and rubbed the back of his neck. Okay, he muttered. Look, all I know is she came to our place after some work event. She was upset. She said she had messed up. She said she had kissed someone and did not know what to do. My pulse roared in my ears. She named him, I asked, or are we guessing? He swallowed. She mentioned that coworker, he said. The one she talks to all the time. I figured you knew. I honestly thought you had already worked through it. I stared at him, cup bending further in my hand. When was this? I asked. Give me a month something. He thought for a moment. Late spring, he answered. Right before you two pulled back from everyone for a while. I just assumed that was related. Late spring, before the separate beds, before the boundaries document, before the therapist. I nodded once more to keep from shaking. Thanks for telling me, I said. I need to hear this from her now. My jaw felt so tight it ached. He raised both hands a little. Do not drag me into a blow-up, he said. I am not trying to start a war. You did not start it, I answered. You just accidentally turned on the lights. I did not stay long after that. Whatever small talk followed did not really register. My body moved through the motions, smile here, nod there. Inside, everything narrowed to one point. She was waiting in the car, scrolling through her phone when I slid into the driver's seat. You okay? She asked. You look like you saw a ghost. I buckled my belt and stared straight ahead. How long have you been physical with him? I asked. No warm-up, no polite lead-in. Her head snapped toward me. What are you talking about? She asked. Who? Your colleague, I answered. The one who texts all night, the one you share our marriage with. When did you first put your mouth on his? Her lips parted in shock. Where is this coming from? She asked. What did you hear? Answer the question, I said. Then we can talk about sources. She looked away out the window. Her chest rose and fell faster now. We kissed once, she said finally. That is it. It was a mistake. It did not go further. The air in the car felt heavy. When I asked, give me the exact time, do not round. She hesitated and chewed her lip. Months before we changed the relationship, she said. After a conference, we both had too much to drink. I laughed once sharp. So when you told the counselor you had not acted on anything, that was a lie, I said. Good to know. She dragged her hands through her hair. It did not feel like acting on it in the way you mean, she said. It was one stupid moment, I shut it down. One stupid moment that you cried about to our friend, I answered. He thought you almost left me for that guy. Her eyes widened. He told you, she whispered. I asked him not to say anything. That is what you are worried about right now, I asked. Your leak, not the kiss itself. She pressed her palms into her thighs. I was going to tell you, she said. I just needed the right time. Everything was already tense. So you decided to build a whole friendship marriage over a secret, I said. Makes sense. She flinched and gripped the door handle. Can we go inside, she asked. I am not doing this parked in front of someone's house. The drive back felt longer than it was. No radio, no small talk, just her twisting her ring and me counting my own breath so I would not explode. As soon as we stepped through our front door, I turned to her. Walk me through it, I said. Every step, I want the truth this time. She leaned against the wall and stared at the floor. We were at a work trip, she started. A bunch of us went out after meetings. He walked me back to my room. We were talking. I felt close. I leaned in. He did too. We kissed. Maybe 10 seconds, then I freaked out. Did you invite him in? I asked. Or did he try to come in? I told him I could not do this, she answered quickly. I stopped it. I told him I was married and confused and that I needed space. Did you tell me when you got home? I asked. My voice had gone cold. Her shoulders sagged. No, she said. I thought I could handle it internally. I was already questioning us. I did not want to blow your world apart over a brief slip. Questioning us, I repeated. How long had you been questioning us at that point? She closed her eyes for a moment. Honestly, she said, over a year I felt disconnected from you. I tried to push it down. It kept coming back. That admission landed like a fresh hit. So for more than a year you were mentally checked out, I said, and I had no idea. I dropped hints, she protested. I told you I felt lonely. I told you something was missing. You told me you were tired, I replied. You told me work was draining. You never looked me in the eyes and said, I am falling out of love with you. Her laugh came out bitter. Who says it like that? She asked. People do not announce it that cleanly. It happens slowly. You wake up one day and realize you are going through the motions. I studied her face, the frustration, the guilt, the exhaustion. Why marry me in the first place if you were capable of drifting like this? I asked. Why pick me at all? She rubbed her arms as if cold. You were solid, she said. You were dependable. You wanted a life that made sense. I waited for the rest. It did not come. That sounds like a job reference, I said. I am asking why you chose me as a partner, not an insurance plan. Her gaze flicked up then down. I had a pattern before you, she said. I chased men who blew everything up, drama, chaos, intensity. I held up a hand. I do not need their biographies, I cut in. I need to know where I actually ranked in your heart when you married me. She inhaled slowly. You were my safe choice, she said. The person I believed I could build something steady with, maybe not the most thrilling, but the most reliable. Hearing it phrased, that cleanly knocked the air out of me. So I was the backup plan, I said, the stable option after the exciting disasters. You were not a backup, she insisted. You were the first one who treated me kindly, who made me feel calm. I wanted that. You wanted calm, I repeated. Did you want me, or could any decent guy have filled that role? Silence stretched, her mouth opened, closed. I cared about you, she said. I still do, but if you are asking if there was some huge grand passion from day one, no, it grew later, then faded. There it was, the sentence that turned my whole marriage into a practical decision. So I was the logical option, I said, and now you miss the fireworks. That is why this man got in. She pushed off the wall and paced a few steps. He reminded me of that part of myself, she said, the alive part, not just the responsible version. That scared me and attracted me. So you tried a taste, I said, decided you could not fully jump, then came home and offered me a chaste companionship while you kept texting him. That is not fair, she snapped. I did not try a taste like some sample bar. I was falling apart. I convinced myself I had ruined everything. That is why I changed what we had. I thought if I removed the romance piece, I could at least stop hurting you. Hurting me by being with me, I asked. That is what you mean. She pressed her lips together. You were so sure we were fine, she said. I felt like a liar every day. After the kiss, I knew I could not keep pretending. So you started pretending a different way, I answered. You pretended this setup would save us while you fed your feelings for him in secret. Her eyes glistened. She blinked quickly. It was not secret in my head, she whispered. I told myself I was choosing you. I stayed. I closed the physical door. I thought that meant something. Meanwhile, you replayed that night with him, I said, while I slept alone. That is not how it was, she said. I hated what happened. I hated that I liked it for half a second. I realized then I did not want to hear the details of what she liked. That would tattoo itself onto my brain and never fade. What would you have done if he had pushed harder? I asked. If he had asked you to leave, would you have gone? She looked stunned by the question, then her shoulders slumped. I do not know, she said. That is the truth. I was that confused. That might be the worst answer she could have given. A clean no would have hurt less. So. My life depended on his restraint, I said, not your commitment. She covered her face with both hands and let out a shaky breath. You think I have not replayed that night 1,000 times, she said. You think I am proud of any of this? I think you are rewriting it now to make it sound less calculated, I answered. You did not accidentally text him all year. You did not trip and fall into a kiss. Anger flashed across her features. You act like you were perfect, she said. You were distant, you shut down when I tried to talk about us, you buried yourself in routines. I buried myself in routines to keep us afloat, I shot back. You were my person. I was trying to keep our life moving while you were secretly auditioning someone else. We stood there breathing hard, not touching, not even close. Two people in the same house, completely elsewhere. Finally, I stepped back. The fight was not bringing clarity, it was just stripping the last illusions off. Do you still want to be legally married to me? I asked. Not friends, not housemates, married. She stared at me like I had spoken another language. I do not want to lose you, she said. That is the only thing I am sure of. That is not an answer, I said. You can keep a roommate, you can keep a brother, you can keep a coworker. Marriage is different. She shook her head slowly. I cannot promise you the kind of romantic love you want, she said. I have tried, it is not there anymore, that part feels gone. There it was, clear and direct. Something she should have said before vows, before the emotional side guy, before separate rooms. Then what am I to you right now? I asked. Give me the real word, do not dress it up. She hesitated, then spoke very quietly. You are my home, she said, my family, the person I trust not to abandon me. Not to abandon you, I repeated, even after hearing all this. Her eyes flooded. I know that is selfish, she whispered. I know I am asking a lot. I just cannot imagine my life without you in it, even if it is not as husband the way you deserve. That was the line that finally broke something inside me, not the kiss, not the safe choice speech, that. She wanted me to stay in a reduced position because it made her feel secure. My pain was the cost she had quietly accepted. I walked past her toward the hallway. She reached out like she might stop me, then dropped her hand. Where are you going? She asked. To the couch, I answered. The spare room is too generous. That space deserves someone who still has a partner. She flinched like I had hit her, but she did not follow. I grabbed a pillow and blanket and went to the living room. Lowering myself onto that narrow couch felt like signing paperwork. The cushions dug into my back and I stared at the ceiling again, but this time the ceiling was mine. The bed down the hall was not. In that moment, the labels caught up with reality. Husband, friend, live-in support system, whatever she called me, this was my true role now. I wish I could tell you I made a clean decision that night, that I packed a bag and walked out. Instead, I lay there listening to the quiet house and tried to imagine my life without this place, without her. The sick part is I still wanted her to come into the room, to say she had chosen poorly, to say she wanted to try again for real, not as companions with paperwork. She did not come. Doors opened and closed softly down the hall. At some point the water ran. Her footsteps paused near the living room, then moved away. Lying there, I finally admitted something to myself I had been dodging. This was not a rough patch anymore. I was not in a marriage. I was filling a role she needed filled. The realization did not come as a shout. It came as a slow, heavy thought that settled in. I was not her partner. I was her fallback. I want a divorce. That was the first sentence I gave the attorney. No warm-up, no small talk, just those 3 words dropping between us. Once they were out, there was no way to pull them back. She studied me for a moment, pen resting in her hand. You sound sure, she said. People usually circle that word for a while. I laughed under my breath, short and ugly. I circled it for months, I answered. Today I finally landed. She asked for the basic outline, so I gave her the quick version. Separate beds, that weird no intimacy deal. The coworker with feelings attached and a history I had just uncovered. I watched her face the whole time and saw zero surprise. When trust is gone, most paths end here, she said. You are not the first partner to be turned into a roommate. That term hit me even though I had avoided using it myself. It felt too accurate, which is probably why it stung. We walked through logistics, property, accounts, possible support. It felt unreal to talk about my life in pieces. Every question made it more concrete. Every answer felt like I was stepping further away from my old self. Do you want to fight over everything, she asked, or keep this as clean as possible? I sat there, fingers laced together, thinking about anger and pride and exhaustion. I want out with my sanity intact, I said. I am not here to punish her. That was the first moment I realized something had shifted in me. A few weeks earlier, I would have wanted payback. Right then, I just wanted distance. The attorney nodded and started outlining a simple separation plan. The word simple scraped across my nerves. When I walked back to my car, my legs felt strange, like they belonged to someone else. I sat behind the wheel and stared at my hands on the steering wheel. They were steady. That almost shocked me more than anything. You know that feeling after a big exam where you are not sure how you did. There is relief because it is over, but dread because results are coming. That is exactly how I felt pulling out of that parking lot. On the drive home, my brain tried to bargain. Maybe I could hold off. Maybe I could give her one more chance without lawyers involved. Then I pictured that chat thread, that conference kiss, the way she called me home and him alive. The bargaining stopped. When I walked through our door that evening, the house smelled like takeout. She had ordered dinner, plates were already on the table. I thought we could eat together like old times, she said, too cheerful. The phrase like old times made my teeth clench. We sat facing each other, clinking forks against cheap plates. She talked about traffic, about some minor work irritation, about anything but us. I let her go for a few minutes, then I cut in. I met with a divorce attorney today. I dropped it right between her story about some meeting. Her hand froze mid-air. The room went silent in one beat. Her eyes snapped to mine. You what? She asked. The pitch of her voice jumped. Her fingers tightened around her fork. You actually went to a lawyer. Yeah, I answered. I did. We talked about splitting everything, about ending this legally, not just emotionally. Saying it out loud in our kitchen made it feel heavier. Her face crumpled for a second, then hardened. You are really going to throw everything away? She asked. After all these years, over one mistake and some messages. One mistake, I repeated, that you hid, and then built a whole new arrangement around while feeding a crush with late-night calls. I kept my tone even, but my chest burned. Tears filled her eyes fast. She blinked hard like she could push them back. I have been honest with you, she said. I told you I could not force passion that was not there. I stayed, I could have left. You stayed, but not as my wife, I answered. You stayed to keep the safe base while chasing excitement somewhere else. That is not loyalty, that is convenience. She dropped her fork onto the plate, metal clanging loud. So what do you want from me right now? She asked. Do you want me to fall at your feet and beg? I want clarity, I said. So here it is, I cannot keep living like this. If we stay married, it has to be a real relationship. That means no more contact with him beyond basic work, no more late chats, no more secret wishes, and we both actually show up. Her jaw worked like she was chewing glass. You are asking me to cut off one of the only people who makes me feel understood, she said. Do you have any idea how harsh that is? Yeah, I answered. About as harsh as being told your partner feels nothing romantic for you anymore. I am done begging to be tolerated. She shoved her chair back and paced the room. I cannot make promises I am not sure I can keep, she said. I will not swear I can magically fall back into some storybook love for you. That is not what I demanded, I said. I am asking for a decision, him in that role or me, husband or friend. You do not get both. My hands were flat on the table. I could feel my own pulse under my palms. She stopped pacing and leaned on the counter, breathing hard. You are giving me a deadline, she said, like this is some kind of ultimatum game. It is not a game, I answered. It is my life. I have already lived a year as your downgrade. I am not signing up for another decade. She stared at a fixed point beyond me, eyes unfocused. I need time, she said. I cannot answer that tonight. I feel cornered. You have had time, I said. All that talking with him was time. Therapy was time. Separate rooms were time. I am the one running out of myself here. Her shoulders dropped. For a moment she looked younger and smaller, like someone caught cheating on a test. What happens if I say I cannot give you what you want? She asked. Then I file, I said. We split. You chase whatever version of love feels true to you. I stop living as a placeholder. It came out calmer than I felt. That calm scared her more than any shouting. She sank back into her chair and covered her face. Her shoulders shook once, twice. I watched, waiting for some words thaw. Tea might change my mind. They did not come. You are really serious, she whispered. You are actually willing to walk away from everything we built. I am walking away from what it turned into, I answered. Not from the memories, those I will carry whether I leave or not. That night I did not even pretend to sleep in the spare bed. I went straight to the couch, dropped my pillow down, and opened my laptop. I pulled up our accounts and started listing numbers. Cold, exact, unromantic numbers. I made a spreadsheet of what I had brought into the marriage and what we had built together. Savings, retirement, shared bills. It felt clinical but also weirdly grounding. For once, the plan was about me, not about cushioning her. At some point, she padded into the doorway, eyes red. Can we talk? She asked. Not about lawyers, about us. We have been talking about us for months, I said without looking up. Now I am talking about me. That earned me a small, wounded inhale. You are choosing pride over connection, she said. You are letting your ego blow this up. That line almost made me laugh. My ego took plenty of hits already, I answered. This is self-respect, there is a difference. She watched me for a few seconds, then turned away, silent. Over the next few days, the atmosphere in the house went strange. Some moments she was cold and distant, barely saying my name. Other moments she hovered, offering coffee, asking about my day, touching my arm like the old version of us might step back in. Once she sat beside me on the couch and rested her head near my shoulder without actually leaning. I do not know who I am without you here, she whispered. This place will feel empty. You will figure it out, I said. You already built a whole emotional life without me. You are not as lost as you think. It came out harsher than I intended, but I did not take it back. One evening, about a week after the lawyer visit, she walked into the living room with her phone in her hand. Her expression was strange, almost guilty, almost relieved. He asked me to be with him, she said, no preamble, just that. My chest tightened in anticipation of the rest. Who, I asked, even though I already knew. I wanted her to say it out loud. Jay, she answered. He ended things with his partner. He wants to try a relationship with me, fully, not hiding. She stared at the floor as she talked. I let that sink in for a second. And what did you say? I asked. That was the real test. I told him my marriage is complicated, she said, that you are still here, that I cannot just jump into something new while we are in limbo. She looked up finally. He said he will wait. Hearing that did something strange inside me. It hurt, obviously, but it also clarified everything. This was not a hypothetical crush anymore. This was a real option standing at the edge of our life. You have someone ready to date you the second this ends, I said. That should make your choice easier. Her face twisted like I had slapped her. You think I want this? She asked. You think I wanted my life to turn into a disaster love triangle? I think you wanted intensity back, I answered. And now you have a path to it. You do not need me as a half-husband holding you back. My words hung in the room. She sank onto the armchair looking drained. Are you doing this to push me toward him? She asked. Is this some twisted reverse psychology? I am doing this because I refuse to sit on a shelf while you figure out who excites you more, I said. If you choose me, it has to be fully. If you choose him, at least be honest about it. She covered her mouth with her hand and shook her head. I cannot promise you what you want, she said again. I keep saying that. I cannot give you a guarantee. And I cannot stay, I answered. That is the bottom line. There it was, laid out cleaner than ever. The next morning, I called the attorney and confirmed I wanted to move forward. We scheduled the first filing. Hearing the date on the phone made my stomach flip. I agreed anyway. Packing started small, a box of clothes, some books that were clearly mine, important documents. I did it slowly, not sneaking, not hiding. She watched from the doorway one afternoon, eyes red-rimmed. You are really going through with it, she said. Her voice sounded thin. Yeah, I answered. I am. I taped a box shut and stacked it by the door. The sound of the tape pulling off the roll felt like a line being drawn. At one point she reached out and touched my arm. We could still change our minds, she whispered. We could pause this, give therapy another real shot, set stricter boundaries. We already tried half measures, I said. I almost disappeared inside them. I am not doing that again. She pulled her hand back like the contact had burned. On the day I moved out, the house looked almost the same. That was the strangest part. My presence fit into a few stacks near the door. The rest was S. Till her world. I loaded the last box into my trunk and turned back. She stood on the doorstep, arms wrapped around herself, eyes glassy. Can we hug? She asked softly, just once, as goodbye. I hesitated, then stepped forward. Her arms came around me, familiar and foreign at the same time. She pressed her face into my chest, her shoulders shook. I am sorry, she whispered into my shirt, for all of it, for not being who you needed. I am sorry too, I said, my voice came out rough, for not walking away sooner, for letting us get here. We held on for a few slow breaths, then let go. Walking down that path to my car felt like walking off a set where filming had wrapped. I put the key to the house on the counter before I left. That simple piece of metal suddenly weighed more than any box. Now I am sitting in a small rental, typing this on a cheap table, trying to make sense of what happened. Half my stuff is still in boxes. The silence here is different. It is chosen, not forced. Some nights I miss her, not the version tangled up with another man. The version from early on, before the slow drift I missed in real time. Other nights I feel a strange kind of peace, like I finally stopped running in circles. She texted me once last week. I hope you are okay, was all it said. I stared at the message for a while and then set my phone down. I did not answer, not yet. So here I am, throwing this whole mess at strangers on the internet. My wife asked for a friendship marriage and kept an emotional, almost partner in the wings. I finally chose myself and walked. I keep wondering if I overreacted, if I should have stayed and kept trying, or if this was the first truly healthy boundary I have ever set.